Imagine unearthing a beautiful bronze object from the Roman Empire, perfectly crafted with 12 mysterious sides, strange holes of different sizes, and little knobs on every corner. Over 130 of these have been found across Europe, but not a single ancient Roman text ever mentions them. No drawings, no explanations, nothing. Were they secret tools, magical artifacts, or something we can't even guess? Today on Unsolved History, we're diving into one of archaeology's greatest enigmas, the Roman dodecahedrons. Stick around, the truth might shock you. The Roman dodecahedrons are among the most puzzling artifacts ever discovered from the ancient world. These intricate objects first began turning up in the 18th century, when antiquarians and early archaeologists started excavating sites across northern Europe. Since then, more than 130 examples have been recorded, with new ones still occasionally emerging thanks to metal detectorists and controlled digs. The most recent notable find came in 2023 from Norton Disney in Lincolnshire, England, perfectly preserved specimen that reignited public fascination. Each dodecahedron is a hollow 12-sided polyhedron, typically cast from a bronze alloy, sometimes mixed with small amounts of silver or tin for added strength and luster. Their sizes vary considerably, ranging from as small as 4 centimeters across to as large as 11 centimeters, making most roughly the size of a modern tennis ball or a large fist. The defining feature is the 12 flat pentagonal faces, regular 5-sided shapes that meet perfectly at the edges. At the center of every pentagonal face is a circular hole, and crucially, these holes are all different diameters on a single object, usually graduated from very small around 6-8 millimeters to much larger up to 30 millimeters or more. This deliberate variation in hole size is consistent across nearly all examples and has fueled endless speculation about function. Adding to the complexity are the 20 small spherical knobs, or nodules, positioned at each vertex where 3 pentagons meet. These knobs are carefully soldered or cast in place, and often show signs of precise craftsmanship. The overall construction is remarkably sophisticated for the period. The hollow interior required advanced wax casting techniques, and the faces had to be joined with great accuracy to maintain the geometric perfection. Some dodecahedrons are undecorated, while others bear elaborate patterns, concentric circles, dots, or zigzags incised around the holes, suggesting they were not merely utilitarian, but possibly held aesthetic or symbolic value. Geographically, their distribution is strikingly limited. Almost all known examples come from the northern provinces of the Roman Empire, particularly the regions once known as Gaul and Germania, modern-day France, Belgium, the Netherlands, Western Germany, Switzerland, and Britain. A handful have appeared in Hungary and Austria, but significantly, none have ever been found in Italy, the Mediterranean heartland, or the eastern provinces. This northern concentration, often in areas with strong Celtic influence before Roman conquest, has led many researchers to suspect the objects may represent a fusion of Roman engineering and local Gallo-Roman cultural practices rather than a standard imperial item. They are frequently recovered from contexts that hint at high value, buried in coin hoards alongside gold and silver, placed in military camps, or deposited in graves. Yet, paradoxically, most show little to no signs of wear, no scratches, dents, or polishing from repeated handling, which suggests they were not everyday tools subjected to heavy use. One rare example from a grave in Germany was found with what appeared to be a bone or ivory handle attached, implying it might have been mounted like a staff or scepter head. Despite centuries of study and dozens of new discoveries, no ancient Roman writer ever described them, No mosaic or relief depicts them, and no inventory or workshop record references anything similar. This total absence from the written and artistic record is what elevates the Roman dodecahedron from a curious artifact to one of archaeology's most enduring unsolved mysteries. The geographic distribution of Roman dodecahedrons presents one of the most intriguing aspects of their mystery, revealing a pattern that defies easy explanation within the vast and well-documented Roman Empire. Every confirmed example has been unearthed exclusively in the northern provinces, particularly those regions that were once heavily influenced by Celtic cultures before and during Roman occupation. The highest concentrations appear in what the Romans called Gallia Belgica and Germania Inferiorius, corresponding to modern-day northern France, Belgium, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, and western Germany. Britain also yields a significant number, with finds scattered from Wales to Hadrian's Wall, while a smaller cluster exists along the Rhine and Danube frontiers, extending into Switzerland, Austria, and even one outlier in Hungary. This northern bias is stark when contrasted with the complete absence of dodecahedrons in the Mediterranean core of the empire. Not a single specimen has ever been recovered from Italy itself, despite centuries of excavation in Rome, Pompeii, Herculaneum, and countless villas and forums across the Italian peninsula. Similarly, none have surfaced in Spain, Portugal, North Africa, Greece, Asia Minor, Syria, or Egypt regions that were deeply integrated into Roman administrative, military, and cultural networks for centuries. The objects simply do not appear in the warmer, more centrally Romanized southern and eastern provinces, even though those areas have produced abundant bronze artifacts of comparable craftsmanship and date. Many researchers interpret this restricted distribution as evidence that dodecahedrons were not standard imperial issue items, such as military equipment or official measuring tools, but rather products of a localized tradition specific to the Gallo-Roman cultural zone. The northern provinces were home to a unique blend of Roman technology and persisting Celtic beliefs, rituals, and artistic styles long after conquest. Tribal elites in these areas often adopted Roman luxury goods while maintaining distinct local practices, and the sophisticated casting techniques used for dodecahedrons could have been the work of specialized workshops serving this hybrid elite class. The contexts in which they are found further underscore their perceived value in these northern regions. Dodecahedrons frequently appear in coin hoards, carefully buried caches of gold and silver that represent significant personal or community wealth during times of instability. Others come from military sites, such as forts along the frontier, or from civilian settlements and villas. A notable proportion have been recovered from graves, suggesting they held personal or symbolic importance to their owners, perhaps as prestige items or talismans. The lack of heavy wear on most examples implies they were not mundane tools subjected to daily handling, but rather objects kept carefully, displayed, or used only occasionally in specific circumstances. This combination of geographic limitation, cultural context, and depositional patterns has led scholars to hypothesize that dodecahedrons may have served a function tied to the particular social, religious, or practical needs of the northern provincial populations, needs that simply did not exist or were fulfilled differently in the Mediterranean heartland. Whether as seasonal agricultural devices suited to northern climates, items connected to local religious cults, or markers of status within Gallo-Roman society, their absence from the broader empire reinforces the idea that they belonged to a discrete, perhaps even secretive, tradition that flourished only on the empire's cooler, mistier fringes. Among the most compelling practical theories for the function of Roman dodecahedrons are those proposing them as tools for measurement, astronomy, or even textile production, each attempting to account for the varying hole sizes, knobs, and overall geometric precision. The rangefinder hypothesis, popularized by physicist Amelia Carolina Sparavigna in papers from the early 2010s, suggests the objects served as optical coincidence rangefinders for military or surveying purposes. By holding the dodecahedron close to the eye and aligning opposite holes until their circumferences perfectly overlapped when sighting a distant target, such as an enemy standard or landmark, the user could estimate range based on similar triangles. Different pairs of holes provided varying angles of view, allowing calibration for different distances or object sizes, making it a versatile Swiss Army knife of ancient optics without needing lenses. Experiments with replicas, including cardboard models, have demonstrated this method works effectively for ballistic calculations or land surveying, fitting the northern frontier contexts where many were found near military sites. However, detractors note the lack of standardization across specimens. Hole diameters and overall sizes vary, which would undermine precision for official Roman engineering or artillery use. And no ancient texts describe such a device despite known Roman surveying tools like the groma or dioptra. A separate but related practical idea frames the dodecahedron as an astronomical instrument for determining optimal agricultural dates, particularly sowing winter grain in northern climates, proposed by researchers like G. M. C. Wagemans. This theory posits that by observing sunlight passing through opposite holes at midday zenith, the device could measure solar angles to pinpoint specific spring or autumn dates critical for farming cycles. The varying hole sizes would correspond to different latitudes or seasonal shifts, with knobs possibly aiding alignment or suspension. One rare silver example inscribed with zodiac signs lends credence to celestial connections, echoing Plato's association of the dodecahedron with the cosmos. Replicas have been used to replicate equinox measurements, tying into the importance of food production for Roman legions in colder provinces. Critics argue the absence of calibrations or markings makes precise astronomical readings unlikely, and the Julian calendar's adoption would have reduced need for such tools. Perhaps the most popularized modern theory, though heavily debated, is the use as a spool or knitting device for producing glove fingers or cords. Demonstrations with 3D printed replicas show yarn wrapped around the 5 knobs of a pentagonal face, looped through a central hole to form tubular sections, ideal for fingers in cold northern winters. Varying hole sizes could adjust tension or diameter, explaining regional prevalence and lack of wear from heavy use. Viral videos have shown functional gloves made this way, suggesting a practical craft tool for soldiers or civilians. Yet skeptics highlight chronological issues. True knitting emerged centuries later, around the medieval period, with Romans favoring null binding or weaving. The expensive bronze construction seems overkill for a simple household item, and no yarn residues or associated needles have been found. These practical interpretations highlight the dodecahedron's ingenious design while grappling with inconsistencies like non-uniformity and evidential gaps. Among the most enduring and widely discussed theories for the Roman dodecahedron's purpose are those framing them as ***, symbolic, or ritual objects ***, often tied to religious, magical, or divinatory practices in the Gallo-Roman world. This interpretation gains traction from the object's elaborate craftsmanship, lack of practical wear, and complete absence from ancient Roman texts or depictions, a silence that some attribute to their association with prohibited or secretive activities. As the Roman Empire increasingly embraced Christianity from the 4th century onward, laws banned magic and pagan rituals, potentially leading to the deliberate omission or destruction of records related to such items. Researchers at institutions like Belgium's Gallo-Roman Museum have long favored this view, suggesting the dodecahedrons served in magical ceremonies, perhaps as talismans or tools for invoking supernatural forces. The *** symbolic dimension *** draws heavily on ancient philosophical associations with the dodecahedron shape. Greek thinkers like Plato described it as representing the cosmos or the fifth element quintessence, a concept that persisted into Roman times and may have resonated in the northern provinces with lingering Celtic spiritual traditions. The 12 faces could evoke the zodiac, linking the objects to astral or cosmic symbolism, while the knobs and holes might have facilitated rituals involving light, offerings, or alignments. One rare silver dodecahedron discovered in Geneva in 1982 bears inscriptions of zodiac signs, providing direct evidence for celestial connections and fueling speculation about their use in astrology or seasonal rites. A prominent variant posits the dodecahedrons as divination tools, popular in an era when fortune telling and sorcery thrived despite official disapproval. The varying hole sizes and geometric perfection could have been employed to cast lots, interpret omens, or channel prophetic visions, perhaps by inserting rods, pouring liquids, or observing patterns of light and shadow. Their concentration in Gallo-Roman regions, areas blending Roman administration with Celtic mysticism, supports ties to hybrid cults where Druidic influences persisted underground. Some graves containing dodecahedrons, including a woman's burial with possible ritual deposits, hint at personal spiritual significance. Another intriguing proposal casts them as scepter heads or ceremonial staffs, bestowing prestige or magical authority on priests, elites, or ritual leaders. Discoveries alongside bone rods or handles, such as in German graves, suggest mounting for processional use, symbolizing power in mystery cults or esoteric practices. The high value implied by their burial in hoards or tombs reinforces this elite, non-utilitarian role. Critics of practical theories often point to these symbolic explanations as a fallback when functional hypotheses falter, yet the cultural context, northern provinces' fusion of Roman and Celtic beliefs, makes ritual use compelling. The dodecahedron's pristine condition and deliberate deposition patterns align with objects reserved for sacred, occasional ceremonies rather than daily handling. These symbolic interpretations highlight the dodecahedron's role in a world where geometry intersected with the divine, potentially explaining their regional specificity and enigmatic survival. The enduring enigma of the Roman dodecahedrons stems from a profound absence of direct evidence in the historical record, compounded by inconsistencies that undermine even the most compelling theories, leaving over 130 known examples, dating primarily from the 2nd to 4th centuries AD, without a confirmed purpose despite centuries of scholarly scrutiny. The most glaring issue is the complete lack of any contemporary mention. No Roman author, from Pliny the Elder to Vitruvius, describes these objects. No mosaic, fresco, relief, or sculpture depicts them, and no inventory, workshop record, or administrative text references anything resembling their distinctive 12-sided form with varying holes and knobs. This silence is particularly striking in an empire renowned for its voluminous literature on tools, engineering, military equipment, and even esoteric practices. If dodecahedrons served a widespread practical function, such as rangefinders for artillery, gauges for water pipes, or agricultural calendars, One would expect at least passing allusions in technical treatises or military manuals, yet none exist. Compounding this textual void is the lack of standardization that would characterize official or utilitarian items. Hole diameters and overall sizes vary significantly between specimens, ruling out precise measurement roles in a bureaucracy famous for uniformity in coinage, aqueducts, and legions, where patterns are minimal on most examples, suggesting infrequent or ceremonial use rather than daily handling as tools or toys. Contextual evidence is equally elusive. While often found in hoards, graves, or military sites, associations are rarely definitive, one poorly preserved bone handle aside, and no consistent artifacts accompany them to clarify function. Theories proliferate, over 50 documented, but each falters on evidential gaps. Practical hypotheses like the knitting spool for gloves, popularized through modern replicas, clash with the absence of textile residues and the anachronistic emergence of true knitting centuries later. Astronomical or surveying devices lack calibrations or supporting depictions, despite Roman expertise in such instruments. Symbolic or ritual interpretations, perhaps tied to Gallo-Roman cults or Platonic cosmology, explain the northern distribution and pristine condition, but struggle with the Prohibition-era silence under Christianity, as no ban object lists name them either. Recent discoveries, such as the exceptionally preserved 2023 Norton Disney specimen in England, the 33rd in Britain, have only deepened the puzzle, offering pristine details but no new contextual breakthroughs. Limited to northern provinces with Celtic Roman fusion, these objects may represent a secretive guild tradition, localized religious practice, or elite status marker deliberately obscured from Central Roman documentation. As of late 2025, advanced analyses like XRF composition studies reveal high craftsmanship in copper alloys, but no functional clues. This confluence of absences, textual, artistic, standardized, and contextual, ensures the dodecahedrons remain one of archaeology's most tantalizing unresolved mysteries, defying resolution despite ongoing finds and debates. After all these centuries, the Roman dodecahedrons still guard their secret tightly. They remind us that even in one of the best documented empires in history, there are corners of the past that remain completely dark. Maybe one day a new discovery, a forgotten text, a perfectly preserved workshop, or an unmistakable context will finally crack the code. Until then, these beautiful bronze puzzles continue to captivate archaeologists, historians, and anyone who loves a good mystery. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. It means the world to this channel. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of history's strangest artifacts, please hit that like button. Drop your own theory in the comments. I read every single one. And share this video with a friend who loves unsolved mysteries. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next Unsolved History episode. We've got the Voynich manuscript coming up soon, and trust me, it's even wilder. Sources and further reading are linked in the description and pinned comment. Class dismissed. See you in the next mystery.